What is up, guys? Thanks for coming back to hang out with your best friend Binks today. Today, we will be going over the full chapter spoilers for chapter 1102 of One Piece. Now, if you don't know, we are in the last and final chapter of Kuma's flashback. With that being said, we're going to follow up by going back to Egghead next week. So, without further ado, let's get into this chapter's spoilers. And the chapter starts off with the title being The Life of Kuma. And it's reader requested cover page. And there's Bonnie eating sandwiches that a pack of wolves made. Now, the chapter starts with Bonnie's journey. The Bonnie pirates were traveling to an island searching for Kuma. He was there, but when the Bonnie pirates arrived, Kuma already warped away, so he wasn't sticking around. Bonnie pirates left tons of injured kids and elderlies after their attacks. They were actually attacking Marines transformed by Bonnie's powers. So Marines believe they're really evil pirates. Kuma was aware that Bonnie was looking for him, but decided he couldn't meet her. And we all know why Kuma couldn't meet her, right? Because his deal with the world government or Saint Saturn. I don't even know if Saint Saturn actually went through the powers that be. Like, albeit he is a power that is, I don't think he went through the realm of powers that be, like took it up to Emu and all these. I think he just kind of decided for himself, like, this is kind of his own side deal. So he just told Kuma basically, hey man, once you get this surgery, your daughter's healed, but the only clause is you can't meet up. So it looks like Kuma is a man of his word. He's going to stick to that. And he's not going to meet Bonnie whatsoever because he doesn't want Bonnie to become a slave of the world government or the celestial dragons, because then it's like Kuma's being traumatized all over again, the same way it happened with Jenny. Moving on, we cut to the scene when Luffy got his first bounty. We can see Luffy's reaction, and the reaction page showed in Jump Festa 2024 with Ace, Jinbei, and Sabo. Shortly after that, during Inez Lobby incident, Kuma visited Vegapunk in Egghead Island. Vegapunk showed him an army of pacifistas being produced, and they talked about the Ines Lobby incident. Kuma revealed to Vegapunk that Luffy is Dragon's son. Kuma knew it's useless to hide this information from Vegapunk since he already promised to give Vegapunk all of his memories. Vegapunk can't believe that Luffy is Dragon's son. Now, I released a previous video of brief spoilers, and in those brief spoilers, I actually made a prediction that Kuma would end up revealing that, or not revealing, but he would end up deducing that Luffy could be tied into Nika, and he was watching Luffy all of this time. And it seems like that's actually, happening as we speak. But let's continue to see where we're going. Kuma, it's curious how a boy, Kuma saying this, it's curious how a boy with rubber powers is going against the world government, just like the legendary Nika. Vegapunk says that's true, and he starts to laugh. So you see, when we got the last chapter and they were talking, like Kuma was talking to Dragon about Luffy and how he kind of figured out how Luffy was Dragon's son, I said in those spoilers, the brief spoilers, that Luffy was, when Kuma saw Luffy doing his Gomu Gomu no axe, that Kuma had some kind of knowledge of devil fruits, and that he knew that maybe from the stories he's heard or have been passed down, that Luffy could actually be the sun god Nika. He could just put two and two together. So Kuma is actually very intellectual, and it's amazing to see how well he can put things together and how quickly he can do that. Not many people would have made that connection, but leave it to Kuma, and here we have it. Kuma saying that Luffy is Nika. Not even Joy Boy, just Nika, So that's a pretty cool tie-in right there. Then we cut to the Thriller Bark incident. We see it from Kuma's point of view. Kuma saw the Straw Hat crew fighting Moria. After the incident, Kuma received a Denden Mushi call with the order to prepare for war against Whitebeard. Obviously, we're going to go to the Summit War, right? Cut to Sabaody, we see Bonnie's introduction scene, but now we discover that Kuma was actually hiding outside the restaurant looking at Bonnie through a window. Kuma smiled when he saw her. Kuma says she's grown into a strong pirate. So, all this time, after all these years, Kuma finally gets to see Bonnie. Just see her. Doesn't even speak. You just see her and he lights up. He's like, hey, man, wow, you've grown. And I can't believe you survived. And of course, every dad has that feeling, I guess, that, they want to see their, not want to, but, they would love to see their kids grow older. And Kuma just knows his fate, which makes this kind of, makes it heartfelt. But Kuma knows his fate, and he knows like this will probably be one of the last times he can see her. So, and we get Bonnie's introduction, and we know what Bonnie is. Bonnie is a glutton just like Jenny. She's always eating. Ever since we first saw her, she was always eating. Ever since we've been introduced to Jenny, she was always eating. So I'm pretty sure that took Kuma down memory lane and reminded Kuma of Jenny. And then, he sees a lot of Jenny and Bonnie, and then he's just like, my daughter, But moving on. Kuma heard about the incident of the celestial dragon. So he warped to the human auction's roof immediately and looked inside. Kuma was shocked when he discovered that Luffy punched a celestial dragon to protect a Gyojin. Kuma says this is a rebellious act that no one has been able to do for centuries. Then we see the Sabaody incident with Kizaru, Sentomaru, and the Pacifistas versus the Straw Hat crew from Kuma's point of view. Luffy says, I couldn't save them, not one single Nakama. So, and then we get Kuma saying, he's thinking to himself, that's not true at all. You all just aren't ready for the new world. Once again, if we take all of this into consideration, Kuma has been very busy, warping from place to place and time to time. I'm wondering how his devil fruit isn't like wearing him down at this point, but he's doing this like back to back to back to back. It's pretty, well, not back to back obviously, but just from what we see where he's been, what has he been doing in between time? I'm pretty sure this is keeping him busy, and this is probably the most busiest year of his life. But watching the Straw Hats grow is another prediction I made, and we see it here that Kuma actually was like, and saying that they weren't ready for the new world. It was in my video. So to see Kuma actually break this down and say, yeah, I can feel it. I know that these guys will be something strong and a force to be reckoned with. I find that to be a very, very, a very great prediction on Kuma's part, knowing that he put his faith in Luffy to liberate the world just from pre-time skip. You see, just from pre-time skip, Kuma already knew, hey, this kid is going to be the change that we need. And I'm here for it. And he put his faith in them to send them off to get stronger. Was it a gamble? Hell yes. By all means, it was a gamble. But Kuma took the risk, and the risk paid off so far. Right? So far. We'll have to see what happens when we get back to Egghead. But speaking of Egghead, in Egghead Island, Saturn ordered Vegapunk to put an additional self-destruction switch on Kuma just in case. Vegapunk tried to negotiate other methods that will allow Kuma to retain his consciousness, but Saturn insisted Kuma's mind must be wiped. He don't want to take no chances. He's like, I think Saturn honestly feared Kuma and what Kuma could do. Like if Kuma decided to, like Kuma could raise up an army and go against the world government himself, like with Dragon and the Revolutionary Army and probably whomever else he can get to side with his faction. I'm pretty sure Saturn had that little inkling in the back of his mind that maybe one day Kuma might rebel. And I think it came from a place of minor fear from Sorbet and what happened to King Beckery. It was something that Saturn took notice at and was like, okay, if he rebelled just from here, and I'm pretty sure Saturn knew that he was a part of the Revolutionary Army. Saturn had that thought, like, if he did that there, it's a possibility he could say, forget this, I'm going to change my mind. Once this is done, I'm going to go take Bonnie and disappear. Like, Kuma could do that, or Kuma could say, hey, man, I want to take up arms against the world government. Probably try to sway Vegapunk at this point, because he can see Vegapunk probably arguing with Saturn about other methods, other means to change Kuma. So maybe in Saturn's mind, he was like, no, we need, just in case he decided that this is not what he wanted and he switched on us, we can stop him automatically. Continuing on, Saturn says, I'm also a scientist. It's useless that you lie to me, Vegapunk. So he's saying, it's useless. Don't be that guy. On the last day of his normal life, just before the Summit War or the Marineford War, Kuma and Vegapunk said goodbye to each other. Vegapunk programmed Kuma to fight Whitebeard pirates in the war, but Kuma asked Vegapunk to program him to protect Thousand Sunny too. Moving on. Kuma said, I would love to see the Straw Hats' growth, but since I can't do it, at least I want to protect their home. Vegapunk says, Kuma, why do you have so much faith in Luffy? And Kuma says, I know Nika isn't just a legend, but I promised Bonnie that one day a warrior of liberation will come to free her. Luffy's actions moved me. I think he's a man who might end up changing the seas one day. And then Kuma went on to give his memories to Vegapunk as he promised. Kuma's memories is like a copy of the original one, so Kuma doesn't forget anything by pulling it out with his powers. Also, the memory will disappear when someone touches it, so Vegapunk developed a system to observe and study it without touching the memory sphere itself. As Kuma pulled out his memories, we see Kuma's entire life flashing before him and all the faces of the people he's loved. His dad, his mom, Ivankov, Jenny, and Bonnie. Then, in a very emotional scene, we see Vegapunk pulling a machine's lever in tears. The machine started to erase Kuma's consciousness. There were rays of light shining on Egghead Island, just like in Kuma's church when he would take the damage from people. All the scientists in Sentomaru were praying and saluting together. In the final page of the chapter, the flashback ends and we cut to the Nikyu room in Egghead Island. The sphere with Kuma's memory is gone and Bonnie is crying on the floor. The chapter ends with Kuma's final words that he asked Vegapunk to tell Bonnie. Kuma said, "Happy 10th birthday, Bonnie." And that is the end of the chapter, and there is a break next week. So, I know we just came off a break, but, I think, what is it? Shonen Jump, like the holidays, Christmas holiday. So, they may be doing something there, but it's a possibility we may get the chapter a little earlier. I just want to say this is a lot to take in. So we have Kuma going through as promised by, him with keeping his word with Saturn, with Vegapunk. They cured Bonnie. Kuma doesn't feel like he has a reason to kind of, live anymore, in the sense of what's the point of being alive to not even be able to talk to my family? What's the point of being here if I can't see my daughter? I don't think Kuma would have turned on the world government, but I do think that somewhere maybe in the back of his mind that if Bonnie were to say the right things, that maybe she would resent him, and that's something that he wouldn't want to go through with. And this could have been his only option left. Vegapunk, on the other hand, I don't think Vegapunk was that heartless. I think Vegapunk actually grew a heart from before, because remember, before he was just all about empowering the pacifistas that he had, or not even pacifistas, just the robots. They were just robots at that point, and then he was just about empowering them and making them more powerful and more he wanted to program them to be much more stronger than they should have been for the world government. It was all for the world government, but I believe upon looking at how they did Kuma and then how Saturn was talking to Vegapunk, I think that woke up something in him, and he was like, well, if they're gonna execute Kuma like this, and they don't want to reason, negotiate, they don't even want to hear me out, I could be disposed of myself. And then we have Bonnie. Bonnie didn't know, but now she knows everything that has happened and transpired within Kuma's life. So I'm pretty sure she saw everything leading up until now, where she is in present day Egghead. Now, that doesn't do much for us, because we know that right now in Egghead Island, they're fighting the devil himself. They're fighting Saturn. Bonnie is about to die. He's squeezing the life out of her at this point in time in Egghead. But like I asked in my video prior, What will Bonnie's next step be? What will she do? If they can make it out of Egghead, what will happen to Bonnie? Where does Bonnie go? Does Kuma appear one last time? Does Bonnie try to reason with Pacifista Kuma, or does she try to save Vegapunk and protect Vegapunk, and they go out to sea with Luffy, and then, well, the Straw Hat crew, and then the Straw Hats take them and leave them on their separate way, and because they already have a doctor, so I mean, what do they need, Vegapunk for it? If you know what I mean. Does Vegapunk end up back with Dragon? What do we have going on so far in Egghead? What happens to Bonnie? What happens after? Is the big question. This was so much to unpack, but please, guys, let me know what you think is going to happen after we arrive back in Egghead and this incident reaches the outside world, and if they all escape. What do you think will happen? Let me know in the comments down below. That's going to be my time. I actually enjoyed these spoilers and sharing them with you. Please don't forget to like, share, and most of all, subscribe. Please subscribe. That way when you see my videos pop up, you can say, I got it here from my best friend Binks first. Other than that, I hope you all have the day you deserve, and I'll see you when the chapter drops. Peace.